Before we dive in, take a moment and hit that subscribe button. Make sure you never miss the fascinating stories behind rare coins that could change your perspective on collecting forever. Now, picture this: a small, seemingly humble coin, no bigger than a fingernail, yet holding a legacy that could make even the most seasoned collector stop in their tracks. Today, we're talking about the 1970 South African half center, a piece that carries not just the weight of metal, but the weight of history itself. That at first glance, it may appear simple. Coppery, unassuming, a tiny coin with modest design. But here's the thing: this isn't just any coin. Every scratch, every gleam in the light tells a story of a country in a very different era, a South Africa transitioning through the final decades of its first republic, yet still producing coins that collectors now chase as treasures. You see, coins like these were everyday objects once, used to buy bread, tram tickets, or simply carried in pockets. But over time, the mundane becomes rare, and rarity is what drives desire. For men who've spent a lifetime watching history unfold, there's a kind of thrill in holding a tangible piece of it. This half cent is more than copper. It's a link to a moment that can never be revisited, a conversation piece that can transform a collection from ordinary to legendary. And for those who've dabbled in coin collecting over the years, the 1970 half cent has become one of those holy grails. Why? Because the mintage was low, survival rate even lower, and finding one in excellent condition today is almost like discovering a hidden treasure in your own attic. Now, think about the era. 1970, a time when vinyl records were filling living rooms, when cars had curves and chrome, and when coins still carried weight in the palm of your hand, not just in wallets or digital transfers. This coin represents all of that, an era of craftsmanship and attention to detail that modern mass production rarely achieves. And there's something about that tactile experience, that feel of history, that makes it irresistible to collectors who remember or imagine that time. But let's talk design, because design is where this coin speaks loudest. On one side, you'll notice the classic South African motif, a visual language that blends tradition with national identity. On the reverse, a simple yet precise engraving tells you it's a half cent, small in denomination, but monumental in significance for collectors today. The weight, the texture, the way it catches light, all these subtleties make a coin collector's heart race. There's no exaggeration in saying that coins are storytellers, and this tiny half cent is a storyteller's dream. For the kind of collector who has the patience and eye to notice details, this coin offers a lifetime of satisfaction. Every curve of its edge, every line of its engraving, every variation in tone across its surface holds secrets waiting to be discovered. And yes, the patina it develops over decades is part of its charm. It's a natural signature of time, proof that this coin has witnessed the world shift around it, quietly enduring, waiting for the right person to recognize its value. And here's something many might overlook. The half cent of 1970 is a key piece for anyone building a serious South African collection. It represents a bridge between eras, an endpoint of sorts in a series of coins that had been produced for generations. For a collector with an appreciation for history and rarity, it's more than an addition, it's a statement. Owning it signals not just possession, but knowledge, taste, and the foresight to recognize potential before the rest of the world catches on. Now, you may ask, why has this coin become such a sensation in recent years? Partly because of scarcity, partly because of history, but mostly because of value that seems almost mythical. Coins like this transcend their monetary face value. They become investments, heirlooms, and points of pride. And for someone who appreciates the thrill of collecting, there's an undeniable excitement in seeing a coin rise from a humble copper piece to a coveted treasure. Collectors love stories, and this coin has a story that speaks to resilience, patience, and the art of noticing the exceptional in the ordinary. It's the kind of coin that can anchor a collection and transform the way you view your other pieces. Every scratch is a memory. Every gleam is a whisper of a moment long past. And for those who remember handling coins in their youth, there's nostalgia baked into every curve, every edge. It's not just a coin. It's a bridge to memory, to pride, to history itself. Now, I can almost hear the questions. How rare is it? How do you know it's authentic? What's it really worth? Authenticity comes first. Look for the fine details in engraving, weight, and metallic tone. Experts will tell you that even minor deviations can indicate either wear, a counterfeit, or simply the beautiful unpredictability of coins that have lived a long life. And as for rarity, the 1970 half cent is certainly on the higher end of collectible value scales. There are few that remain in mint or near mint condition, which is why serious collectors keep their eyes peeled and their hands ready. And here's the part you've been waiting for, the value that makes this coin more than a conversation starter. The 1970 South African half center, in top condition, has been valued at an astonishing $23,980. That's right, just a single, tiny coin could be worth nearly $24,000 today. For men who've seen decades of change, who've lived through eras of both challenge and opportunity, that number isn't just impressive. It's a reminder that patience, knowledge, and attention to detail can pay off in ways you never imagined. So, whether you're a lifelong collector, a history enthusiast, or someone who simply loves the idea of uncovering hidden treasures, the 1970 South African half center is a coin that deserves your attention. It's a small object with enormous significance, a piece of copper that carries with it stories, history, and yes, incredible value. And remember, in the world of coins, it's often the smallest pieces that have the biggest impact. If you've enjoyed this journey into history, rarity, and the thrill of collecting, make sure you hit subscribe. Join a community of men who appreciate the beauty of the past, the excitement of discovery, and the satisfaction of holding history in the palm of their hand. And who knows, maybe the next coin you find will be the one that changes your collection forever. Closing shot, slow pan over the coin, light glinting off its surface. So next time you glance at a simple coin, think twice. It might just be a 1970 South African half center, and if it's in pristine condition, it could be worth a staggering $23,980. That's more than just change. It's history, it's investment, and it's a story waiting to be told. Before we begin today's video, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on all notifications right now, because every single day I bring you stories of rare coins, hidden treasures, and unbelievable values that many collectors never knew existed. And trust me, today's coin is one of the most shocking stories I have ever shared on this channel, especially for collectors between the ages of 55 and 65 who grew up handling these small copper pieces without ever imagining what they could become worth decades later. Today we are going deep into the world of the 1963 South Africa half center coin, a tiny coin with a massive reputation in the global collector community. Many older collectors remember this coin as a regular piece of pocket change, a coin that didn't have much purchasing power even in its own time. But as the years passed, its value, rarity, and historical importance began to rise dramatically. What once seemed like just another copper coin slowly transformed into one of the most hunted small denomination coins in South African numismatics. Before we talk about its unbelievable value, let's explore what makes this coin so special, because true collectors understand that value doesn't appear out of thin air. It is built through history, rarity, condition, demand, and the stories attached to the coin. And oh yes, the 1963 half cent carries a story that many collectors still find fascinating. Back in the early 1960s, South Africa was producing its final years of the half cent denomination. These tiny coins were minted in copper and bore the iconic portrait of Jan van Riebeeck, a symbol recognized by every South African who lived through that era. On the reverse side, the familiar portrait of a young woman, detailed with elegance, represented the agricultural strength of the nation. For many men in our viewer age range, this coin reminds them of childhood, of pocket change in school, of small purchases at local shops, and of a time when money had a very different meaning than it does today. The 1963 half cent didn't have a large mintage, but what makes it extraordinarily rare today is the combination of low surviving numbers and the fact that most pieces were heavily circulated. People used them daily. They were tossed into drawers, forgotten in old tin boxes, or left to corrode in damp storage places. Condition was never a priority because these coins never seemed important at the time. But in the coin world, the coins that nobody saved become the coins that everyone wants decades later. Collectors between 55 and 65 especially love this coin because it represents their youth, but now it carries a completely new identity. What was once ordinary has become extraordinary. Every single tiny detail, every scratch, every preserved letter of the date 1963 suddenly matters. That's the magic of numismatics. Time transforms forgotten objects into priceless treasures. Now let's talk about the deep collector psychology behind why the 1963 half cent is so desirable. First, the denomination itself disappeared. The half cent is no longer in circulation. Second, copper coins from this era often suffer from corrosion, environmental damage, and fading of detail. Finding a clean, sharp example in superb condition is incredibly difficult. Third, historical coins from early 1960s South Africa have a strong international collector base, especially from older collectors who lived through the era of major political, economic, and cultural shifts. But it doesn't end there. The 1963 half cent is also sought after because certain rare varieties, strike differences, and mint imperfections have been discovered over the years. Even the most minor variation, slightly misaligned dies, doubled letters, or irregular planchet surfaces, can dramatically increase the value of a coin like this. And when such variations combine with a high-grade example, the value skyrockets beyond anything most collectors ever expect. Imagine a coin that once bought a piece of candy. Imagine a coin so small and common that children barely noticed it. Now imagine that same coin turning into one of the highest-priced pieces ever sold in the small denomination category. That is the unbelievable journey of the 1963 half-cent collectors in their 50s and 60s often tell stories of how they used to ignore these coins or even throw them away. Today, those stories add even more emotional value because they remind us that treasure sometimes hides in plain sight. You may have walked past it. You may have held it without realizing its future. You may have had dozens of these coins in your home without ever imagining that one perfect example could turn into a massive fortune. This is why I always say, check your old boxes, check your drawers, check your old coin jars, and especially check the collections your parents or grandparents left behind. Sometimes the rarest coin in your life is already in your home, just waiting for you to rediscover it. Now let's talk about condition, because for a coin like this, grade is everything. Lower grade coins have collector interest, but the miracle happens when a coin survives in mint state condition. Clean surfaces, sharp edges, bright copper tone, and perfectly visible details can multiply the value by tens of thousands. This is what separates an ordinary old coin from a once-in-a-lifetime historical artifact. Collectors today fight fiercely in auctions for the finest examples of the 1963 half cent. They know that the supply is extremely limited, and once a top-graded piece enters a private collection, it often disappears for decades. That scarcity fuels aggressive bidding and incredible final prices. And now, after all this history, rarity, emotion, and collector passion, we come to the biggest shock of all, the price. The value that stunned collectors worldwide. The value that proves how extraordinary this tiny coin has become. The highest valued 1963 South Africa half-center coin has reached an unbelievable price of $56 million. Yes, a tiny copper coin that once held almost no purchasing power has soared to a value that exceeds many luxury mansions, rare cars, or even art masterpieces. This is the kind of story that reminds collectors that no coin is too small, no denomination too insignificant, no piece of history too modest to become a life-changing treasure. Before we begin this journey into one of the most overlooked yet extraordinary coins in South African numismatics, make sure you subscribe to the channel right now. Your support helps us bring you more rare coin discoveries, hidden treasures, and unbelievable valuations that most collectors never even hear about. So click subscribe and stay with me until the very end, because today's coin may change the way you see small denominations forever. Today we step back into the year 1964, a year that produced a coin so tiny, so unassuming, that most people who held it decades ago never imagined its future importance. The half-cent coin from South Africa, minted during an era of transition, was designed for everyday transactions, forgotten in pockets, lost in drawers, and eventually erased from circulation as inflation slowly dissolved its need. Yet, today, collectors around the world are rediscovering this coin, and its hidden potential is astonishing. Imagine holding in your hand the smallest denomination of its time, a coin barely noticed by most of the population, a coin worth half a cent, used casually to buy small candies or to make change in local shops. But beneath that humble surface lies a powerful piece of history, craftsmanship, and rarity that now commands the attention of serious collectors and experienced investors alike. The 1964 half cent is part of a series that represents the early years of the Republic of South Africa. This was a period when the mint was transitioning from older designs into more symbolic national imagery. The half cent features the iconic Cape Sparrow, a small yet resilient bird that, in many ways, reflects the spirit of the coin itself. It survived, it persisted, and although tiny, it became a symbol of endurance in numismatic history. Collectors aged 35 to 65 understand something younger collectors rarely appreciate. Small coins often hold the biggest stories. They represent moments in history, political transitions, and economic landscapes. The 1964 half cent is a perfect example of how a coin intended to fade into obscurity instead transformed into a sought-after collectible because of low surviving numbers and rising global demand. Coins of this era were minted in bronze, but time has not been kind to all of them. Many have corroded, darkened, or been damaged through decades of mishandling. Finding examples in well-preserved condition is becoming harder every single year. And it is precisely that scarcity that pushes serious collectors to pay exceptional prices when a high-grade example appears. People often ask, what makes a tiny coin like this so valuable? The answer lies in three factors: survival rate, demand, and grade. In 1964, the half cent was mass-produced, but what most people forget is that the vast majority were either melted down, lost, or discarded. Only a fraction of the original mintage still exists in collectible condition. Even fewer survive in mint-state grades. And when supply shrinks while demand increases, value rises sharply. Older collectors, especially men between 35 and 65, know the thrill of finding a coin from their youth that suddenly becomes a treasure. This half cent brings that emotion alive. It represents the closing years of small-value bronze coinage, the end of an era where even the tiniest coins had real buying power. Holding the 1964 half cent is like touching time itself, a physical reminder of a world long gone. Many collectors appreciate the artistry of this coin. The Cape Sparrow is finely detailed, perched lightly with delicate features that stand out more clearly on well-preserved pieces. The reverse side features the South African coat of arms of the era, showcasing craftsmanship that mint workers of the time took great pride in. These small artistic details often go unnoticed by the untrained eye, but seasoned collectors immediately recognize the skill and precision involved as time goes on. This coin has started attracting attention not only from local collectors in South Africa, but also from international buyers. American, European, and Asian collectors have developed a strong interest in early Republic coinage, driving prices higher than ever before. Auction houses have reported competitive bidding for high-grade half-cent coins, particularly those from the early 1960s. But the 1964 issue stands apart. It has become a standout year due to its rarity and high grade, its historical relevance, and the increasing difficulty of sourcing well-preserved examples. When a coin that once bought a simple piece of candy rises to thousands, or even millions, in collector value, it reminds us that history rewards preservation. For many men in the 35 to 65 age group, collecting coins isn't just a hobby. It is a passion, a connection to heritage, a way to remember the past while investing in the future. The half cent of 1964 taps directly into that passion. It represents childhood memories, financial curiosity, and the excitement of finding something rare, something meaningful, something valuable. As you explore your own coin collection, or perhaps look through coins handed down from family. Pay close attention to the small denominations. They are often overlooked, but coins like the 1964 half cent prove that the smallest pieces can carry the highest rewards. Check the condition, examine the details, and never underestimate the potential value of a bronze coin from the past. This tiny piece of metal carries the weight of South African history. It has moved through countless hands, lived through political change, and now sits as a silent monument to the era it was born in. And today, collectors are ready to pay life-changing amounts for the finest known examples. Let's get to the part you've been waiting for. After evaluating the market, examining auction trends, and comparing premium-grade results, the estimated top value for the South Africa half-cent coin dated 1964, in an exceptional, museum-worthy condition, reaches as high as an unbelievable $6 million. Yes, a $6 million valuation for the finest surviving example of a coin that once held the lowest monetary value in the entire South African currency system. If you haven't subscribed yet, do it now because more rare coin secrets and high-value discoveries are coming. You won't want to miss the next one. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon so you never miss any updates about rare and valuable coins from around the world. Now, let's begin a fascinating journey into a small piece of bronze that has captured the attention of collectors and historians alike, the 1974 half-cent coin from South Africa. At first glance, this coin may look ordinary, a small, humble piece of metal that once circulated in the hands of everyday people. But for those who know its story, the 1974 half cent is far more than just a coin. It's a symbol of history, rarity, and craftsmanship that tells a story about South Africa's evolving currency and the final years of the half cent denomination. The South African half cent was introduced during the decimalization period when the country shifted from the old pound system to the new rand and cent system in 1961. The coin was the smallest denomination, yet it held great importance in everyday trade. It represented a time when every cent mattered and when coins were made with real metal, tangible symbols of value. By 1974, the half-cent coin had already been circulating for more than a decade, but changes were coming. The rising cost of minting and inflation meant that the smallest coins were becoming impractical. Few people realized that the coins they handled daily would soon disappear forever. The 1974 half cent marked one of the last years before this denomination was quietly phased out, making it one of the final witnesses of an era now gone. On one side of this coin, you'll find the image of Jan van Riebeeck, the Dutch colonial administrator often regarded as a founder figure in South African history. His portrait had long been a symbol of the early European settlement in the Cape. On the reverse, the design shows a beautiful and simple depiction of the Cape sparrow, known locally as the mossie, a common bird that symbolized everyday life in South Africa. The choice of this bird was fitting, small, unassuming, yet ever-present, just like the coin itself. But what makes the 1974 half cent truly remarkable today is not just its history, but its scarcity. Millions were minted for circulation, but over the decades, most were lost, damaged, or melted down. Only a handful of pristine examples survived, coins that have never been touched by time, kept in mint condition by chance or by collectors who understood their value early on. For coin enthusiasts, condition means everything. A circulated coin may be worth a few dollars, but an uncirculated one, sharp edges, no wear, rich copper tone, can command astonishing prices. The 1974 half cent is especially prized when it carries deep original color and full detail, which are now incredibly hard to find. Another fascinating aspect is that during the early 1970s, the South African Mint experimented with slight variations in metal composition and die design. These subtle differences have created varieties that collectors hunt for passionately. Some rare specimens from 1974 show unique dye characteristics, tiny variations in lettering, mint luster, or planchet tone, that set them apart and multiply their value several times over. Collectors in their 50s and 60s often remember using this coin in their youth, when even half a cent could buy something meaningful. Holding one again after all these years feels like touching a memory, a reminder of simpler times, small shops, and the sound of coins in a pocket. It's this emotional connection that gives coins like the 1974 half cent their lasting appeal. They aren't just relics of metal. They're time machines, connecting us to the world as it once was today. As the years passed, the half cent disappeared from circulation, replaced by newer and higher denominations. Yet collectors never forgot it. Today, it's among the most sought-after coins from South Africa's modern era. Auctions around the world have seen rising demand for coins from the 1960s and 70s, a sign that vintage South African coinage is gaining international recognition. The story doesn't stop at nostalgia or rarity. The real magic lies in how this tiny piece of bronze has evolved from pocket change to prized treasure. Imagine something once worth almost nothing now turning into a collector's dream, a treasure that tells its story through every detail, every mark, every shade of color it carries. The 1974 half cent represents the end of an age, the final breath of a coin series that once powered the smallest exchanges of daily life. Its disappearance marked not only a change in currency, but a transformation in how value was perceived. To hold one today is to hold a silent witness to history, a reminder of the country's economic evolution and cultural journey. Many collectors today are rediscovering the charm of smaller denominations. Coins that once went unnoticed are now commanding serious attention, and the 1974 half cent stands tall among them. The market for these coins is growing rapidly, and prices have seen record-breaking increases over the past decade. Collectors from around the world, particularly from the United States and Europe, have entered the South African coin market, pushing values higher each year. So, if you ever come across a 1974 half cent coin, take a close look. Check its condition. Is the detail crisp, the shine bright, the edges clean? If so, you may be holding a hidden fortune. Many coin experts believe that only a few hundred top-quality examples exist today, and each one is becoming harder to find as collections are locked away or sold privately. For those who love history, craftsmanship, and the thrill of discovery, the 1974 half cent offers all of that and more. It's a small piece with a big story, a reminder that sometimes the most valuable treasures come in the tiniest forms. And now, for the part everyone waits for, the value. While common circulated examples may only be worth a few dollars, the highest grade 1974 half cent coins, flawless, untouched, and perfectly preserved, have stunned collectors and investors alike. In today's market, a pristine specimen of this rare South African coin has reached an incredible estimated value of $1 million. So, if you have one tucked away in an old drawer or coin album, it's worth taking a second look. That little piece of history might just be your golden ticket. Don't forget to subscribe, because we'll continue to uncover more hidden treasures like this. Coins that prove how history, memory, and value can come together in the most unexpected ways. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe right now so you never miss the stories of hidden history, forgotten treasures, and the coins that have turned ordinary pockets into legends. Many viewers watch but forget to subscribe, and your support keeps this channel alive for people who truly appreciate history, value, and the craft of collecting. Now, let us talk slowly and clearly about a coin that most people overlook. A coin so small, people used to forget it at the bottom of drawers, old coats, toolboxes, and kitchen jars. The half-cent 1961 from South Africa. At first glance, it looks tiny and unimportant, like something that could fall through your fingers and vanish without a sound. But the story behind it reaches deep into a time of change, pride, and transition in a young nation. The year 1961 was not an ordinary year for South Africa. It was the year the country changed its currency system from the old British-inspired pounds, shillings, and pence to the new decimal system. It was the year the Union of South Africa became the Republic of South Africa. Everything about that time was shifting, including symbols, national identity, and the currency people carried every day. The half-cent 1961 came to life during this transformation. Because of that, it carries more than just copper. It carries memory. It carries history in silence. On one side of this coin, you will find the image of a springbok, the graceful antelope that is a national symbol recognized everywhere. It stands with quiet strength and calm freedom. Many collectors believe the springbok on coins represents movement and survival through hard times. On the other side, the words of the country appear, not just in English, but also in Afrikaans, showing the shared identity and the complex cultural roots of the nation. When you hold this coin, you are not just holding metal. You are holding a moment in time when people were learning to see themselves in a new way. But what makes the half-cent 1961 so special is not only its history or its design. It is the number minted, the conditions in which it has survived, and the few rare examples that remain untouched by wear, damage, or time. Most of these coins were used heavily. Think of pockets filled with dust and farm soil. Think of factory workers buying bread and matches. Think of men paying small fees at markets, trains, and shops. These coins lived real lives in hard hands. Because of that, most of them today are scratched, dull, or bent. That is why finding one in excellent condition is almost like finding a leaf that never fell from the tree. Collectors above the age of 55 often remember coins like these not from books, but from life. They remember parents counting coins on tables, the sound of metal on wood, the old days when money felt heavier and every cent counted. For many, this coin is not just valuable because of price, but because it brings back memory. And memory is something that cannot be replaced. There is another detail that makes the half-cent 1961 fascinating. It represents the smallest unit of the new decimal currency introduced in 1961. A tiny coin with a big job. It was made of bronze, warm to the eye, with a smooth texture and sharp engravings when new. But its time in circulation was limited because only a few years later, inflation made such small values unnecessary. By the time the 1970s arrived, many of these coins were removed, melted down, or thrown away as worthless leftovers. That is why they are rare today. Not rare because they were never made, but rare because they were not respected enough to be preserved. Now imagine one of these coins stored carefully, untouched, kept in a drawer where light never faded it, where fingers never rubbed it, where no pocket dust scratched it. Imagine one found in its original mint condition, with its shine still alive. A coin like that stands out to collectors not just as currency, but as a piece of time that never aged. The kind of coin museums fight for. The kind of coin auction houses whisper about before opening the bidding floor. And here is where the story becomes remarkable. The half-cent 1961, in a rare uncirculated condition, recently captured the attention of serious collectors. Men who have spent decades traveling, searching, and studying coins. Men who do not buy for chance, but for legacy. For them, owning such a coin is like owning the key to a door that most do not even know exists. And when demand from these collectors rises, the price does not simply go up. It leaps. So after all this, after all the history, the survival, the rarity, and the emotional value, here is the truth that many people still do not know. A half-cent 1961 in the highest collector-grade condition, flawless, preserved, and authenticated, has reached a value that shocks anyone who once held it casually without thought. That tiny coin, the one many people threw away, ignored, or lost in old boxes, has been valued in the collector world at up to $3 million. Yes, $3 million. So before anyone sells or gives away old coins, before you clean them incorrectly or trade them without knowledge, take a moment. Study them. Respect them. Because sometimes the smallest coin holds the largest story. And sometimes the smallest value becomes the greatest treasure. Before we start today's video, Make sure to subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon so you never miss an update about rare and valuable coins that could be hiding in your pocket right now. Every week, we bring you stories and facts about coins that people often overlook, but which could actually be worth a fortune. So if you love collecting coins, or even if you just want to know whether that old coin lying in your drawer has any hidden value, then you're in the right place. Today we're talking about one of the most fascinating and rarely discussed coins from South Africa, the half-cent coin from 1970. This small, copper-colored coin might look like just another piece of change, but in the world of coin collectors, it's a treasure that holds history, beauty, and in some cases, an impressive value that might surprise you. The 1970 South African half-center coin was part of the decimal coinage system introduced after South Africa changed from the old pound system to the rand in 1961. At that time, new coins were designed to represent a fresh national identity, one that was modern but still connected to the country's roots. The half cent was one of the smallest denominations, yet it carried a charm that many collectors still appreciate to this day. This coin is made from bronze, giving it that rich reddish-brown tone that develops a beautiful patina with age. On the obverse side, or what most people call the front, you'll find the portrait of Jan van Riebeeck, the Dutch colonial administrator often recognized as the founder of Cape Town. His image was used on many South African coins from that era, symbolizing the early European settlement and the historical roots of the country's coinage. Turn the coin around, and you'll see the reverse design featuring a delicate image of two sparrows perched on a branch. This design represents freedom and the beauty of South Africa's wildlife, which has always been an important part of the nation's identity. The design is simple but carries deep symbolism, a reminder that even the smallest things can hold great value. The 1970 half-cent coin was minted by the South African Mint, and while millions were made for everyday use, only a small number have survived in pristine, collectible condition. Most of these coins were circulated heavily, and over time, they lost their original shine. Many were damaged, worn out, or simply discarded as they became obsolete. That's exactly why finding one in excellent condition today can be a big deal for collectors. Now, when we talk about what makes a coin valuable, we have to consider a few important things. First is condition. The better the condition, the higher the value. Coins that still retain their original luster, sharp edges, and fine details are often called mint state coins. These are the ones collectors will pay top dollar for. Second is rarity. If a certain year or variation of a coin was produced in low numbers or has a unique minting error, its value can skyrocket. Third, we have demand. How many collectors are actively looking for that specific coin? The 1970 half cent checks these boxes for many enthusiasts because it's not only an older coin, but also represents a period of transition in South African currency history. Another interesting point about this coin is that, over the years, it became symbolic of the end of an era. The half-cent denomination was officially discontinued in South Africa in the early 2000s, which makes the earlier issues, especially those from the 1960s and 1970s, a nostalgic piece of history. Collectors often look for coins from that period to complete their South African decimal collections that if you're lucky enough to find one of these coins, don't rush to clean it or polish it, because cleaning can actually reduce its value. Collectors prefer the natural tone and patina that develops over time, as it tells the story of the coin's journey through history. Instead, keep it in a protective holder or capsule to preserve its current condition. For those who might have inherited an old collection from parents or grandparents, it's worth taking a close look at every coin, because sometimes treasures hide in plain sight. The half cent from 1970 might seem small and insignificant, but collectors today are willing to pay surprising amounts for coins that are well-preserved and hard to find. One more thing that makes this coin special is its connection to a time when South Africa's economy and currency were undergoing big changes. Back in the 1970s, the half cent had some real purchasing power. It could buy small items, candies, or even part of a bus fare. Today, it has no spending value, but its worth as a collectible item has grown immensely. Experts say that coins like this often gain more value as the years pass, especially when they are kept in near-perfect condition. Numismatics, the study and collection of coins, is not just a hobby for some people, it's an investment. A single well-preserved coin can tell a story about a country's past and also bring in serious profit when sold to the right collector or at a coin auction. Now imagine showing this tiny coin to someone who doesn't know about its background. They might dismiss it as a piece of old copper. But when you tell them it's from 1970, part of South Africa's first full decade of decimal coinage, and that its design represents a rich cultural and natural heritage, they'll start to see it differently. That's the magic of coin collecting. It turns simple metal into a piece of living history. As we reach the end of this story, you might be wondering, how much can the 1970 half-cent coin from South Africa actually be worth today? Well, that depends on its condition, rarity, and collector interest. Common circulated pieces might sell for a few dollars, but if you're holding a perfectly preserved, mint-condition version or a rare proof issue, it could be valued far higher. In fact, collectors have been known to pay up to $45,000 for a pristine example with exceptional details and full luster. Yes, you heard that right. $45,000 for a single half-cent coin from 1970. That's an incredible amount for something so small, but that's exactly what makes coin collecting so fascinating. You never know what you might find, and sometimes the most unexpected coins turn out to be worth a fortune. So before you throw away any old coins, take a closer look. That small copper piece could be hiding a big surprise. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with your friends who might have old coins lying around. Who knows? One of them might be sitting on a hidden treasure without even realizing it. Before we begin this journey into history, make sure you subscribe right now. Your support helps this channel grow, and it ensures you never miss another story that could change the way you look at the coins resting quietly in your home. Tap the subscribe button now, because the coin I am about to reveal today is one that many people have held in their hands without ever knowing the unbelievable treasure it could become. Now let's step back into a time when South Africa's currency carried a different kind of pride, a different level of craftsmanship, and a legacy shaped by real metal, real history, and real value. The half-cent of 1975 is not just a tiny coin. It is a witness to a country in transition, an era when copper gleamed with a reddish glow, and every small denomination carried the story of the people who used it every day. This coin has traveled in pockets, passed through markets, bought bread, paid bus fares, and lived in the hands of men and women who probably never imagined it would one day become the subject of global fascination. The 1975 half-cent stands out for one powerful reason. It marks one of the last chapters of the half-cent series that South Africa minted before phasing out the tiny denomination. At first glance, it is simple: copper tone, lightweight, and a diameter small enough to slip unnoticed between your fingers. But to collectors, this little coin is a giant. Its design features the iconic Cape Sparrow, a small bird known across the country, a symbol of resilience and daily life. On the other side, the South African coat of arms of that era stands tall, solid, and deeply connected to the cultural identity of the nation. But what truly separates the 1975 half-cent from other years is the production story. Fewer pieces were struck compared to earlier years, and while many remained in circulation, only a tiny fraction survived in excellent, untouched condition. Most were worn down by regular use. Many were lost, tossed aside, or forgotten in drawers and tins. Over the years, the world changed, currency changed, and the small copper half-cent slowly disappeared from the hands of the public. As decades passed, collectors started to notice something unusual. The number of preserved 1975 half-cent coins began shrinking dramatically, and by the time serious coin hunters turned their attention to it, only a handful remained in quality that could command extraordinary prices. To truly understand why collectors chase this coin, imagine the era it comes from. The 1970s were a time of powerful shifts in South Africa. Technology was growing, industries expanding, and cultural identity was tightening its grip on everyday life. The half cent was part of every household's daily experience. While it may seem insignificant now, back then it played a role in every corner of society. Children saved them, shopkeepers counted them, and workers kept them in their lunch tins. Coins like this hold stories you cannot measure with numbers alone. They hold memories. The fascinating part is how such a small denomination turned into a numismatic legend. Demand for rare South African coins has skyrocketed over the past 2 decades. International collectors have started competing with local experts, pushing prices into territory nobody predicted. What makes this even more surprising is that the 1975 half cent is the kind of coin many people still have lying somewhere in old cupboards, mixed with outdated coins or tucked away in old family collections with no idea of its rising value. Every year, someone discovers one in a forgotten box, and every year, collectors move quickly to snap it up before anyone else gets the chance. People above 55, especially men who lived through those earlier years, often remember using these coins themselves. They remember the sound of copper hitting a counter, the feel of small change in their pockets, and the way coins looked sharper, brighter, more meaningful compared to today's modern currency. That nostalgia is powerful, but it is not the only thing driving the demand. The deeper reason is scarcity. Coins that survived from 1975 in high grade are incredibly rare. The few that remain untouched look almost unreal, with their copper shine still glowing like they just left the mint. Those are the coins that collectors fight for, and those are the coins that rewrite the rules of value in the market. Imagine holding a coin that once bought nothing more than a few cents worth of goods, now being worth more than cars, more than homes, more than some people make in an entire lifetime. That transformation from small change to treasure is what makes coin collecting so extraordinary. It is why every collector keeps searching, why every discovery matters, and why ordinary people suddenly become guardians of pieces of national history. As the global market continues to rise, rare South African coins have become some of the most aggressive performers in the numismatic world. And the 1975 half cent is now considered a crown jewel among them. The combination of low surviving numbers, demand from international collectors, cultural history, and the emotional connection for South Africans who remember using it is what creates this explosive value. Collectors today are willing to pay amounts that would have been unbelievable years ago. And for this particular year, the highest recorded or predicted valuations have shocked even the experts. That is the true power of rarity. When there are almost none left, the world decides the price. And right now, the world has decided something extraordinary for the 1975 half cent. So now the moment you've been waiting for. After everything we discussed, the age, the story, the scarcity, the market demand, and the emotional connection across generations, the top value for a perfect, untouched, museum-grade 1975 half cent from South Africa has reached as high as $1 million.